Welcome to Sacrilegious Discourse.
For this is what the Sovereign Lord says.
Why do you need prophets to tell people who you are and what you want?
If you can justify everything that the God of the Bible has done, then you can justify any of your behavior.
A lot of this mentality is trickling into what is now mainstream right-wing Christianity.
I am capable of empathy greater than this God of the Bible.
This is a Bible that they tell kids. This is the good Lord. This is the good book. He is fantasizing about murder, mass murder.
Head over to sacrilegiousdiscourse.com right now to find out how to leave us a review or support us on Patreon.
To get people excited about Boost Mobile's new nationwide 5G network, we're offering unlimited talk, text, and data for $25 a month.
Forever.
Even if you have a baby.
Even if your baby has a baby.
Even if you grow old and wrinkly and you start repeating yourself.
Even if you start repeating yourself.
Even if you're on your deathbed and you need to make one last call.
Or text.
Right, or text. The long-lost son you abandoned at birth.
You'll still get unlimited talk, text, and data for just $25 a month with Boost Mobile.
Forever!
After 30 gigabytes, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers will pay $25 a month as long as they remain active on the Boost Unlimited plan.
Forever.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. What comes to mind when you hear the word gratitude? Maybe it's a daily practice, or maybe it feels hard to be grateful right now. Don't forget to give yourself some thanks by investing in your well-being. BetterHelp is the largest online therapy provider in the world, connecting you to qualified professionals via phone, video, or message chat. Let the gratitude flow. Visit BetterHelp.com today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com.
Husband!
Wife!
Guess what we're doing today?
Well, we've finished Amos.
We did.
And we did our regular run of things, so that must mean that today we're getting ready to do our
Q&A, not on Saturday. Nope, it's really the wrap-up of the whole book of Amos. You were looking at me like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And the truth is, nobody knows.
I mean, yesterday you called the Q&A the wrap-up.
I know.
And now today you called the wrap-up the Q&A.
It seems right and fitting.
Something, yeah, sure.
I see nothing wrong here.
Yeah.
Carry
okay.
on.
So we're doing our wrap-up for Amos.
Yes.
Yes.
Because we finished that fucker.
We did. We
fucked him hard.
Do you got some good stuff for us today?
Sure.
That again, overwhelming with the amount of enthusiasm there.
I have some very interesting information, actually.
Great. I can't wait.
Not all of it is about Amos.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. You ready to do this?
Sure.
Let's do it.
Okie dokie. All right. So we are wrapping up this whole book of Amos.
We are.
This entire 9 chapters that we did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to tell you, there was not a lot about this dude or about the book itself.
I mean, it was pretty unremarkable, right?
Yeah, that's exactly, yes.
There was more anger from God, but that's about the most unique thing I can say about it, right? It's not really anything, nothing really stands out or apart from other things in the Bible. So
I'm so glad to hear you say that. Yeah. He was extremely unremarkable, as was the book as a whole.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree with that.
Good.
I would agree with that.
So according to the Bible, Amos was an older contemporary of Hosea and Isaiah.
Sure.
He was running around the same time those dudes were.
Right.
And so he was active around 760 to 750 BCE. And that was during the reign of Jeroboam of Samaria, which was northern Israel.
Okay.
While Uzziah was king of Judah.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're going to come back to that time period in a minute.
Okay.
Now, during this time, Israel was prospering, was doing so well. Like Ziegler said in Moulin Rouge, everything's going so well.
Yeah.
After years of turmoil, the Israelites were enjoying good political standing, and their relationship with the Phoenicians was finally proving successful.
Yeah.
Yay! They were learning their ABCs and whatnot. Along with wealth and luxury, the Israelites were turning their ways to the gods of the Canaanites. Womp womp.
Right.
You know, I hate when they do that. That's always a bad day for them.
God especially hates that.
Yeah.
So
moral standards were forgotten and the commandments were being ignored, and they were fucking all over the place, left and right, high altars, high places, low places. They got friends everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
On your neighbor's bathroom rug, you know?
Right. It strikes me that they're talking about how they were prosperous and they were doing well, right? And then they transition here into like the apologists, right? They transition, but they weren't worshiping God correctly, right? I think that's kind of the sentiment, right? It couldn't possibly be that they're doing well. They're finally becoming something of a noticeable state because they're transacting well. They've got money. They've got wealth. They
were being rewarded for finally, having stuck with God all these years.
Sometimes it's not always best to be noticed.
Yeah.
Like these other places that are like, hey, we could get some quick cash over there. All we got to do is conquer them.
Yeah.
Like that. That's, to me, that's the reasoning behind what is happening.
Yeah.
It's geopolitical, right? It's not about a God. It just happens to be that people in times of wealth and in times of prosperity always find bad things. Let me rephrase that. People always find bad things. Doesn't matter what time frame it is.
Sure.
If things are going bad, obviously something's causing it. If things are going good, the thing that's going to happen that's going to go bad later is caused by the people that were doing the things wrong the good way.
I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Kind of thing.
There's never, no one can ever be fucking happy.
Exactly.
Ever.
Yeah.
And so it's just, it's really simple explaining away as to why they got conquered, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not taking into account the actual reasons. They just like, well, God did it.
Everything's God. It makes it easier.
It definitely does.
Don't have to think things through.
Right.
So Amos is said to have lived in the kingdom of Judah, but preached in the northern kingdom of Israel with themes of social justice, God's omnipotence, and divine judgment. And those became staples of his prophecy.
Got it.
Okay. According to the book's superscription, that first verse.
Yeah.
Where it was like, in the days of blah, 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 this be Amos.
Right.
He was from Tekoa, a town in Judah, south of Jerusalem. But remember, there was a question about that given kind of where he went and the tense of one of the verbs in the final bout between him and Amaziah, where Amaziah was, don't be selling your shit here, go back to Judah. And he's like, but my message is for you. And then there was a question about whether he left or whether he ran away or whether he returned home or not.
Sure.
And so there was a question about which Tekoa he was from.
Right.
So,
okay.
Anyway, but his prophetic mission was in the northern kingdom. Okay.
Got it.
So that's where he was selling his wares.
Sure.
Grifting and shouting.
Yeah.
He is called a quote unquote shepherd and a quote unquote dresser of sycamore trees.
Yes.
But the book's literary qualities suggest a man who was more than merely a poor farmer. Farmer boy, fetch me that Bible. Amos did come from a family of prophets, but was not a prophet himself. So, yeah, I didn't catch that.
But he was, though.
Well, he claimed not to be a prophet because he was not picked to prophet to everybody across the board. He had a specific message for a specific time for a specific people.
This sounds okay.
He's like, wouldn't me.
No, it just like, I'm not a real prophet. I'm a true prophet. Like it's like one of those make prophets great again things.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like whatever.
Yeah, no, dude. I totally.
Yeah.
He's like listed as one of the minor prophets in the Bible. So clearly we think of him as a prophet, but somehow, like, when he was busted by Amaziah, he's like, totally not a prophet, yo. I'm just over here. I'm a farmer.
Probably because there was some sort of legalistic stipulation that you had to have, or legalistic denotation that you had to have in order to be an
maybe
actual
you had to
prophet,
have like
maybe?
a certificate or a license, and he forgot to like get that checked out.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of like how you got to get a passport if you're going to travel.
Yeah.
Or you got to get like a driver's license if you're going to buy a car.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So from his writings, though, it's assumed he was an educated man who was also in tune with the oppression of his people.
Sure.
And in recent years, scholars have grown more skeptical of the Book of Amos's presentation of Amos's biography and background.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So the Book of Amos is known for its distinct, sinister tone, as you suggested at the beginning.
Right.
And his violent portrayal of God.
Right.
You know, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah. The more violent portrayal.
Violent,
like,
yeah.
I mean, it's not like
the specific.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, God was specifically violent a lot before this.
But so before it seemed like the prophecies were like, this will happen to these people. He looked straight in Amaziah's face and said, your wife is going to be a prostitute and your children are going to get stabbed. And so are you.
Yeah.
Boom. Dead.
Yeah.
And don't forget, this book came before a lot of what we've already read.
But God was specifically targeting, like, who was the guy that had the prostitute for was it Hosea that had the prostitute for the wife and all that,
I couldn't possibly
I'm pretty
remember.
sure it was Hosea. But anyway, he had the prostitute wife and the kids that were named shitty things or whatever.
Loser and butt face.
Right, basically. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not that God hasn't specifically targeted people before. He definitely has. I think it was just the amount of and the level of anger that he had in this book. Right? Like that seemed like what it was to me more than anything.
Okay.
Because, I mean, we talked about some really horrendous things multiple times. Yeah. And that's that amount of anger, that amount of destruction was a next level type of, having it that many times throughout the book was a lot. Right. For 9 chapters, you know, so.
No, I hear you. Amos announced most, if not all, of his message in Bethel, where, he was told to fuck off.
Right. And
Bethel, of course, was an important religious and commercial center near Israel's southern border.
Okay.
And, that's because he was actually from the south, Judah.
Got it.
So.
Yeah.
He gained the attention of his audience by first announcing God's judgment on Israel's neighbors. He's like, I mean, don't those guys over there totally suck? And like everybody loves a gossip. And so they started gathering around and they were like, totally, I know, right? I mean, fuck those guys.
Well, that's a salesman tactic, right? You get people to buy in by agreeing with this, that, and the other. Mm-hmm. And then once you got them on the hook, you're like, and we suck too. Right. That's when you throw it out.
Yeah, unless you're Fox News and then you just keep going on with it. And they suck and they suck and they suck and they suck and they suck.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
This news no doubt pleased his listeners, but this was just part of his build up to the climax, which announced God's judgment on Israel, like you just said.
Sure.
So I had a question. What happened to Amaziah? And I was like, I wonder if he is spoken of elsewhere in the Bible. We're going to read about like what happened to him. Did he really die or whatever?
Sounds familiar, like we've talked about him before.
It sounds like it, but no, we didn't.
Okay.
So the Bible does not record the specific fulfillment of the prophecy, you're going to fucking die.
Right.
Or any further details about Amaziah's fate. However, the broader historical context suggests that Amos's predictions did come to pass during the Assyrian conquest of Israel in 722 BCE.
Okay.
And that's when the northern kingdom of Israel was destroyed, and its leaders, including priests like Amaziah, were likely killed, exiled, or enslaved.
So again, this sounds like it was injected probably after that happened.
Yeah.
Someone was like, hey, that fucking priest was kind of a dick. Let's just...
let's use his name.
Yeah, let's use his name.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's just put it like right here where it doesn't belong in the middle of this chapter.
Right.
Boom.
Yeah.
Done.
Perfect.
Yeah. The population at that time was deported to Assyrian territories, fulfilling the prophecy of exile. So, it all came to pass or whatever.
Sure. Whatever.
Like, I'm so jaded over this.
I don't, there's not, the prophecies in the Bible, and I know people are like, well, they definitely happen. Like, okay. So, yes, maybe some of them did happen, but we can't for certain, and especially based on the research that's been done on the Bible and based on what we've read about the time frames and when people wrote things and how many people wrote things and when things got injected back into their certain books. Mm-hmm. There's no fucking way to know when any of this was written, first of all. In comparison to when the events might or might not have happened. And the most logical reasoning that you can come up with is that they were put in after they happened. Yeah. Either that or that there was more than one story and the one that, foretold the future is the one that got stapled. But generally the simplest explanation is usually true. Yeah. Right? And I'm not saying that that's 100% always the case, but it makes a lot of sense if you're writing the book about a God that you want to be correct, that people would be like, hey, let's make our God correct here. I think that also mixed with the prognostication that comes with paying attention and knowing the politics of the time. Sure. Which we talked about before during that other. Yeah, some of the prophecies were very generalized that this warring faction is going to come in and kill us, right? Yeah. Those things were on the horizon. They were known things that were probably going to happen because there was tensions. Right. So, I mean, they weren't hard prophecies. Right. So there is no direct archaeological or historical evidence of Amos as an individual prophet, of course, because I was like, did this dude really exist? Do we have any proof whatsoever? Well, that's interesting because early on when we first started this book, you said that the consensus was that people think that he's a real person. He's a real person or somebody like him. Okay. That's the consensus. But I guess that's my problem, right? I take a little bit of issue with the fact that we don't have any historical record of this person, and yet the consensus is that there was a real person named Amos, possibly. Right. But that's what we go with, right? Sure. Why? Why do we go with that? Because it's a journal entry that says so. I don't know. No, I get it, right? Mm-hmm. But I mean, especially with the things that are questionable about when things were written, how they were written, who actually wrote them. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why we feel obligated to say, yeah, there probably was an Amos. Because you know what? There probably was a lot of things that we don't know about, but it doesn't mean I'm going to say they're true because I don't know if they're fucking true. No, you're right. You're totally right. As you said, like many figures in the Hebrew Bible, Amos's existence relies on the textual traditions preserved in the Bible itself. Sure. So it's true because the Bible says it's true. Right. And that's just not a valid source for me. However, there are contextual clues and evidence that support the historical setting and themes of the Book of Amos, sure, lending credibility to the time period and environment in which he is said to have lived and preached. That's not the same thing, but right. I appreciate you trying to pretend that it is. Yeah. These things happened is not the same thing as that man lived and wrote these words. Well, and it could have very well have been, written during that time frame that it says it's written during, mm-hmm. but it could have just been a story that somebody wrote about some fictional, prophet that they wanted to, tell a story about. Like, hey, I think this would be a pretty cool thing to have happened, and we need to tell those people what's what. So yeah. And hey, there's no way to know, right? And if we don't know, why are we saying that it's true? Right. I don't know. That's all. Because religion. No, I know. I know why. I know the answer. I just don't agree with the answer. Well, here is some indirect evidence supporting Amos's context, not his existence, his context. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Number one is historical accuracy of the time period. The book of Amos is set during the reigns of Uzziah, king of Judah, which was circa 783 to 742 BCE, and Jeroboam, king of Israel, which was circa 786 to 746 BCE. Okay. This was a period of relative peace and prosperity for the northern kingdom of Israel, which does align with the societal injustices that Amos critiques, such as the exploitation of the poor by the wealthy elite.
archaeological discoveries such as the wealth disparity evident in 8th century BCE ruins in Israel, by which we mean Samaria and other surrounding cities, do match Amos's descriptions of luxurious living juxtaposed with oppression.
Got it.
So that lines up. Okay. Number 2 is Bethel as a religious center. Bethel, where Amos confronted Amaziah, or where I think Amaziah confronted Amos, is what it should read, was a known religious hub in the northern kingdom. Now, that doesn't mean anything. It was a known religious hub, therefore makes sense to place a story there.
Yeah.
Duh.
Right.
Excavations at Bethel have revealed evidence of cultic activity consistent with the idolatrous worship that Amos denounced.
Cultic activity could also be, God worship.
When they say specifically idolatrous worship, though, that means that they did find like the idols and stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
So all of that was found there.
I take issue with them calling other religions cults.
Right.
So I'm like, you guys are a cult too, essentially.
Yeah.
Especially back then, because you were smaller and, very much a, one of many. Yeah,
one of many. There was no and this is the big one here.
Right.
Which, we've been talking about in our special Patreon episode. We started a series about cult versus religion.
We did.
Which is actually very relevant to what we're reading now, of course.
Christianity is just a cult that stuck,
Yeah.
That's really how I feel about it.
Kind of how I feel about it, too. So that was the second point. The third point is the earthquake mentioned in Amos. So Amos references a significant earthquake in chapter 1, verse 1, which is dated 2 years before the earthquake. The earthquake. Geologists and archaeologists have found evidence of an earthquake in Israel around the mid-8th century BCE, supporting the historical setting of the book. Which tells me that they wrote it a couple of years after the earthquake and then said that it took place before.
Absolutely.
Not only that, but we also know from literature around that same time period from other places in the world, not just that little teeny tiny dot, that all of a sudden earthquakes showed up as a metric of comparison of how for realsies big or bad something was.
Sure.
So there definitely was an earthquake.
Well, and we're talking about legitimacy and truth and context, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the fact that they're claiming that this was said 2 years prior to the earthquake and then it happened and blah blah blah. It's a prophecy.
Right.
It just doesn't sit well with me.
Well, because it's magic, and we don't believe in magic.
I don't believe in magic, and I believe that it was written after the fact. So if it was illegitimate at the time of writing, it makes it less believable 2,000, 3,000 years later.
Right.
You were lying right off the rip, and now we're still reading this shit and believing it for some groups of people in this world.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
But to me, the fact that we've passed down a lie for thousands of years doesn't make it more believable. It makes it less reliable than it should be.
It also says to me, mankind was just as stupid back then as they are today if they believed that. We just voted in America for Trump, the biggest dum-dum, and it was a landslide. It was the popular vote voted this guy.
Right.
What I'm saying here is if people were stupid enough to believe this back then, all I have to do is look around today and be like, yeah, that tracks.
Well, and for all we know, it was written by somebody once they went into Syrian exile and they were like, we need something to, pull us back together.
Yeah, get it.
They would still remember what was happening. They would have been somebody that would have still been, understanding the relevance of this king, that time frame, this happening, that happening. But it would have been written with the knowledge of all these things happening. And people didn't read back then unless you were a scholar. So you could write something and say, hey,
look what I
found.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And then you just make up some fucking prophet, and the prophet said this, and like it's all wonderful and great, and look, everything matches up correctly.
Wow.
Crazy, huh?
It's amazing that this thing that happened, we just now found something that said it was going to happen 2 years before it happened, but somehow the paper doesn't look that old. But don't look at that.
Right.
Don't look at that.
In the age of the internet, we struggle with facts.
Yeah.
Right? Like we have to seek really hard to make sure that we are not miscommunicating what is happening in the world.
Even
right?
news sources themselves are being fooled by deep fakes and AI shit.
Yeah, for sure. But in a world though where hardly anyone reads, and news travels slower than, molasses, I guess I'll just use a whatever. But it would have been so much easier to fool people back then because you just make something up and then say, yep, that's true.
Sure.
And then people believe it and then continue to fucking believe it.
Right. That's the part that gets me.
Right.
We could know better.
We can question the legitimacy. Yeah. Right? Like there's what's wrong with questioning the legitimacy?
I don't have beef with it, but you'd have to take it up with magic believers.
Right. If there is, because look, I can't prove that there's not to 100% truth, right? That there's not a God.
Sure.
Right? Like no one can prove there's not a God.
Negative. You can't prove there's not unicorns either.
Look, there's not, but I can't prove it.
Right.
So let's just say for the exercise of this moment right here that there is a God.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. Totally. Okay. Sure.
All right. Just play along with me here for just a moment.
Okay. There's totally a God. I believe you.
Yeah. Why would this God, why would he give a fuck what's in a book? First of all, let alone, why would he care what some, asshole wrote 3,000 years ago? If I was a God, either I'm telling you directly in your heart or in your, whatever the fuck it is that transmits directly. I'm beaming my godness to you
in your ear hole,
or I'm making my presence known through things that just are unmistakable as signs of God, sure. Right? Or shit, I'm having fucking breakfast with you. I don't know. I mean, you're God. You could probably have breakfast with everybody at the same time.
Right.
I don't fucking know, man. But why is the texts from 3,000 years ago?
That's the important part.
All we have to go on. Like, why is that? I will never get over how we just accept that.
Right.
Because it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like there's no reason to believe any of this stuff. We're not given any reason to believe any of it. Right?
No.
And more than that, it's contradictory. It's very shitty behavior with regard to how the God treats his people. Mm-hmm. And we're supposed to accept that this God is real.
Sure.
I just don't get it.
Yeah, you gotta give me something. You gotta give me something other than "cause I said so."
Right.
And like, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the people who are "cause I said so," and the majority of them are not trustworthy people. I wouldn't trust them to babysit my child, much less to believe that there's a God out there.
Right. Well, this is a discussion I think I've had recently with somebody, but there's just so much wrong with the Bible that I just don't understand how you can sit there and take it as truth.
Sure.
That's all. And I know I went on a long time about the same fucking thing.
Did.
And I've probably gone on about it before, but
you have.
It pisses. It still makes me mad.
Do it again because you will.
Always going to make me mad.
Yep. Me too.
Okay.
All right. So moving on. The fourth point is prophetic traditions. Amos is part of a broader tradition of Hebrew prophets who critiqued their societies. So the fact that there were others means that, sure, why not? He could have existed,
Sure.
His unique emphasis on social justice and condemnation of empty religious rituals does fit with the cultural and religious evolution of Israel at that time. So he very well could have existed, if not him, somebody or a group of somebodies who decided to call themselves Amos.
Yeah, but let's just say that.
Right.
That's all.
Exactly.
That's all I'm saying.
No, I totally agree. So let's look at some scholarly perspectives.
Okay.
Because, that's more fun.
Yeah.
While Amos's exact historicity cannot be confirmed, most scholars do agree that the book reflects authentic conditions and concerns of 8th century BCE Israel, suggesting that a figure like Amos, whether as a single individual or a composite representation of prophetic voices likely existed. Blah, 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 womp, womp.
Right.
While this era is not associated with groundbreaking... Oh, now we're going to move on to the time period in and of itself.
Okay.
Because that's pretty much all I could find about Amos and the book thereof.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, fuck this guy, fuck this book.
No one cares about Amos.
Yeah, basically, like, that was pretty much it. So I was like, but what else was happening around that time?
Sure.
Okay, so while this era is not associated with groundbreaking inventions like the wheel or writing, say, significant developments in tools, techniques, and ideas were shaping societies.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about that a little bit.
Sure.
As Amos focused on the social and religious issues of the northern kingdom of Israel, other significant events and developments were unfolding globally. Here's a snapshot of what was happening.
Okay.
The Iron Age was in full swing across the Near East, including Israel. Iron tools and weapons were becoming more widespread, replacing bronze due to iron's abundance and superior strength. Okay, so we're like right in the middle of the Iron Age during this time.
Okay.
Advances in iron smelting and forging allowed more efficient agricultural tools and more durable weaponry, influencing warfare and farming.
Influencing warfare.
And farming.
No, yeah, sure.
You know, warfare, so that we can go get more of that land for farming.
Well, look, those two things just in and of themselves, right? Farming brings more wealth to an area. Weapons bring the ability to take that wealth from the people easier.
Yeah.
So both of those things contributed to war.
Yep. Which is
right. Yeah, no, I mean, right, basically, yeah.
So here's what else was happening, though. The Phoenicians, based in city-states like Tyre and Sidon, were at their height as maritime traders. They developed sturdy ships capable of long-distance trade, equipped with advanced sails and steering mechanisms. They also refined celestial navigation techniques using the stars to guide their voyages across the Mediterranean.
Very cool.
Yeah, they spread their influence and the alphabet, of course, through the Mediterranean because they had already invented the alphabet.
Right. They got everybody hooked on phonics.
Nice. Including to Greece and North Africa. So they spread all that shit.
Yeah.
Greek city-states, speaking of Greece, like Athens and Sparta, were beginning to emerge, and the development of the Greek alphabet, adapted from Phoenician script, was facilitating cultural and intellectual growth. So all of this was coming about like one leading to the other right quick during this little century.
Well, in the advent of iron and all that kind of, there's a lot of things happening.
Yes, the world is like just ripe, you know, with summer fruit. You know, it's just all change everywhere. This century was crazy.
Yeah.
The Homeric epics like the Iliad and the Odyssey were likely being composed orally, laying the foundation for Greek literature. Okay. So they were actually telling these tales over there in Greece while all of this shit was happening, that earthquake over, you know, whatever, while Amos or his whatever, what's the word? I started to say facsimile, but that's not right. His, avatar, his people like him, whatever. I can't think of the word, but anyway, he or people like him were over there, you know, yapping about God gonna get you. God hates you. You're doing everything wrong. All this high sex in the high places. You know, the Greeks were like, cool. But anyways, have you heard about those ABCs?
Right.
Nice. Yeah. Improved irrigation systems, particularly in Mesopotamia, which is the area that we're discussing, were increasing agricultural yields. So again, with the farming, these technologies supported growing populations and urbanization. So the cities were growing. The prosperity. The farms were growing. The cities were growing. Lots of warfare to get the ground and the cities. Like, it's just crazy. Techniques for crop rotation and fertilization were being refined, enhancing food security, which only led to more cities. Yeah. So, I mean, this is crazy stuff happening. You know, it just like it just must have been such an interesting time to be alive. Like the last century, people right now who are 100 years old have seen so much change in their lifetime this must have been one of those centuries where they just saw so much change.
Sure, but the main text that we know from this era, the Bible, right, that we're reading here, it just bitches about things.
Right, exactly.
Right? Like it's par for the course.
It is.
People only care about what's going wrong.
Yeah.
Like in general, right? That's what pushed through as the main idea. I just it bothers me. Like they're not talking about any of this stuff in the Bible as far as like, look at all these amazing things that are happening to us.
Right.
But no, God hates you and wants to kill you.
Right.
That's what we're talking about.
I think there needs to be a healthy dose of both, because there can be too much celebration of what's going well. For example, let me prove my point here for a second. Whenever I'm at my parents' house and I'm talking about healthcare, and how it's a joke in America and other countries have all these other systems, my dad's like, yeah, but they have their problems too, and blah, 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 and we still have the best, blah, 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 and like, our country can do no wrong. You can't talk about how America sucks in this area, because if you talk about how America sucks in this area, then you're saying that America has a weakness, and that might mean America's penis is small.
Yeah. What? Can't have that.
Whoa. That was like a leap. Where did that come from?
Yeah.
Like, so I think there has to be a hand in hand. Nothing is perfect, and nothing should be bombed and killed. And, like, can there be a happy medium where we're like, hey, this is the places where we're doing really, really fucking well. But while I was traveling, I saw these cool things that I think we should implement because they're doing it better. Or I also noticed that while we are doing these things well, here's where we're falling short, that I would love to see some improvement.
Yeah.
Like just that happy medium, you know?
Right.
I think on a personal level, like just, when you're talking about a person trying to find that fine line between self-growth versus acceptance and self-love. You know what I mean? Where are the places that I need to grow and to better myself? And where are the places that I need to accept my flaws and, just kind of love myself, whether I suck or not, kind of thing.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's that, but on a larger grand scale.
Right.
So early settlements were forming in the region that would later become Rome. So Rome was starting to build.
They were building Rome.
Yeah. And now look today, Rome is burning. I've seen that going around on Facebook, because Trump.
Yeah, no, I got it.
And we're Rome.
Right.
And we're burning because like Rome, Okay.
I got it.
You see what I did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I got it.
The Etruscans, civilization in central Italy, were flourishing and influencing later Roman culture. So that was happening.
All right.
Okay. I'm going to say this wrong ahead of time. I'm telling you that. The Zhou dynasty, I think it's pronounced Chou. It's Zhou.
Okay.
I believe it's the Zhou dynasty.
Okay.
So apologies if I am completely butchering that.
Sure.
But that dynasty, which lasted from 1046 to 256 BCE. Yeah, that's a crazy length of time.
Yeah.
It was in its Eastern Chou phase, marked by the spring and autumn period, which is, I don't even know what that means, but it was from 771 to 476 BCE.
Okay.
So we're like right in the middle of that dynasty.
Got it.
This era saw the rise of regional states and philosophical developments that would later shape Chinese thought, including early Confucian ideas. So we're seeing the beginnings of Confucius,
Got it, yeah.
The use of iron for agricultural tools began to spread, improving farming efficiency and productivity. And the reason I wanted to include other places that we don't typically talk about during like whenever I do these book wrap ups and I'm like, what else was happening in the world around this time?
Yeah.
I just think it's important to recognize other nations. They existed on the planet too.
Right. And put it in context historically, right?
Yeah. Innovations in plowing techniques, such as more efficient plows, allowed for the cultivation of harder soils, And although iron was becoming more common, the Chinese were still producing highly sophisticated bronze objects, particularly for ceremonial purposes using advanced casting techniques. So even though we are in the Iron Age, they were still using Bronze era, but to its perfection.
Sure.
So I wouldn't call that a not caught up so much as but we're still doing it better back then.
Right.
You know what I mean?
We already have the resources for this shit, so whatever.
And also, we're not mixing with y'all, so y'all can do what the fuck you want over there.
Right.
You know, we're doing our own thing over here, and we're doing it just fine, thank you.
Yeah.
In India, the Vedic period, which was around 1500 to 500 BCE, so that period was underway, characterized by the composition of the Vedas, which were foundational texts of Hinduism. So that's when Hinduism was starting. Early city-states and kingdoms were forming, but larger empires like the Mauryan dynasty were still centuries away. India was already known for its textile production, including the spinning and weaving of cotton. That's amazing. I did not realize that it dated that far back.
Yeah.
Techniques for dyeing fabrics with natural pigments were becoming more refined. So they had very colorful clothing.
Right.
In Mesoamerica, so, you know, our stomping grounds a little bit, kind of.
Yeah.
The Olmec civilization, which was around 1500 to 400 BCE, was thriving, considered a quote-unquote mother culture of later civilizations like the Mayans and the Aztec. Okay.
So we're talking about southern,
like South America, Middle America and South America.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The Olmecs were creating monumental sculptures, including their iconic colossal stone heads. You know, those big old giant heads. Yeah. Using tools made from basalt and other hard stones. And early forms of rubber processing were likely developed, as the Olmecs were among the first to use natural rubber, possibly for ritual or practical purposes.
Gotcha.
I did not know rubber dated back that far.
Yeah.
So that is what else was happening in the world where the Bible wasn't.
Got it.
And I just thought it was important and thought I'd stick it in there because fuck Amos and fuck the Bible.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So that was Amos
wrap up. We have one more episode to go.
Yeah.
And then we'll be done with this bitch.
Yeah. It's the one where I'm always right.
You're always wrong.
Fuck.
Wrong.
Yeah, no, I got it. All right. So that's our next one that we'll be doing probably tomorrow. And then I will be back with the weekly wrap up after that, or the weekly replay. I'm sorry. After that, where we get the week long episodes in one. And then we will be back for
that one chapter of that one book.
That one book.
I think it's Obadiah, but I didn't look, and I never do because
we're so prepped. We're so ready for this. You know,
I mean,
it's unbelievable how prepped we get
why
ahead
start
of time.
Now? Being professional.
I know, right? Yeah.
Somebody asked us last night, like, you guys don't plan ahead, and we were like, fuck no.
Yeah. Just so we have some good. I want to mention on the end of the podcast here, but we have some friends that did that are friends on Discord with us. That we did a interview on their YouTube channel, which it was just a fun get together.
It was a chit chat. It was a hangout.
Yeah. So if you have the time, you should go check out. It's the channel's called Talk to Your Plants.
Revived or resuscitated.
Yeah. We had a good time.
Yes.
So, and it was, there were some good questions and we just chatted for a long time. So
it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. So,
but we always have fun with them because they come hang out with us in our Discord on Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
And you can too.
That's right. All right. So that's all we got for tonight, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
To make switching to the new Boost Mobile risk-free, we're offering a 30-day money-back guarantee.
So why wouldn't you switch from Verizon or T-Mobile?
Because you have nothing to lose. Boost Mobile is offering a 30-day money-back guarantee.
No, I asked why wouldn't you switch from Verizon or T-Mobile?
Oh.
Wouldn't.
Because you love wasting money as a way to punish yourself because your mother never showed you enough love as a child?
Whoa. Easy there.
Yeah.
Applies to online activations. Requires port in and auto pay. Customers activating in stores may be charged non-refundable activation fees.
You've been waiting all year, and the moment is finally here. Boll & Branch is the bedding brand for better sleep, and their best sale of the year is happening now. Right now, you can get 25% off the organic cotton sheets loved by millions of sleepers. They feel breathable, luxuriously soft, and get softer with every wash. Shop Boll & Branch's cyber event with extended returns for the holiday season. Hurry to bollandbranch.com and use code BUTTERY for 25% off everything. Limited time only. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
Shorter days and chillier nights can make it tough to keep up your fall workout routine. Thankfully, there's Alo Moves, the app that brings health and wellness to the comfort of your home. Alo Moves offers yoga, Pilates, strength workouts, and other fitness classes, plus wellness offerings like meditations, sound baths, and more. Whether you have 5 minutes or an hour, Alo Moves has a class or flow that saves you from a frigid trip to the gym. Get a 30-day free trial and 20% off an annual membership with code ACAST at alomoves.com.
Hey wife, I guess that's the end?
But husband, that's just sad.
It doesn't have to be. We are on lots of social media platforms like Twitter. Our handle there is sacrilegious_D.
For D's nuts.
Oh my God. Stop doing that. Anyway, we're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. There's a link to all of our social media sites at our website.
Ooh, we have a website?
Yeah, it's sacrilegiousdiscourse.com, where you can also find a link to our merch shop.
We have a merch shop?
Yep, we have podcast-themed clothing, mugs, notebooks, and more, as well as an atheist and science-themed products.
Wow, our fans should really go check that out right now.
Definitely. They can get in touch with us by sending an email to sacrilegiousdiscourse@gmail.com. But before they do that, we could really use some help.
Oh yeah? With what?
Well, it's not free running the podcast, and we need some financial support in order to get better equipment, which will free up time so we can concentrate on our podcast and our fans.
Okay, so what should they do?
Head over to patreon.com/sacrilegious discourse and sign up as a contributor on our podcast. Supporters there receive additional bi-weekly episodes that we record just for our Patreon members for as little as $2 a month.
Also, we'd really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe on whatever platform you're using.
And Apple Podcast reviews help us out tremendously.
Like and subscribe. Leave an Apple review. Join us on Twitter. Support us on Patreon. That's a lot of instructions. Don't forget to say thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.